in the Premium and Ultimate suites. I'm going to be going through each of these tools and explaining which suites they're available in. So the next is the Sketchbook Designer. AutoCAD Raster Design, again, not overly often used. And then if we get time at the end, a little look at some of the others, such as Recap, 3D Studio Max, and Navisworks that are available in the Premium and Ultimate suites. Now, it looks like on my end, my sound may not be working as well as I thought it was. To confirm that everyone can actually hear me, if someone could type in the chat box that they can hear me. I guess I can see one person that can hear me. Good, very good. Okay, we are good to go. Alright, so A2K Technologies, we are a firm of solutions specialists. We provide training, consulting. We have over 150 staff, making us the largest partner of Autodesk in Australia and New Zealand. And we have experts in each area, so if we don't have someone in your state or in your city, we can easily get someone out there. We don't just do the Autodesk suite, we do other things there. So as you can see, the brands listed on the page there, so right through from HP for the hardware, Microsoft for Windows and Office suite, through to Adobe, and then of course Autodesk. So if you needed a one-stop shop to have a computer delivered with Windows configured with the Autodesk suite on it, we'd be able to provide that full service there. So as you can see, not just software, we do consulting and a lot of training, as I mentioned, but also our support, IT services and hardware areas are quite large as well. So myself, as I mentioned, my name is Glenn Sinclair. I'm one of their technical consultants. I'm based in Victoria. So my background is as an architectural CAD and BIM manager with Woods Bagot. So my specialty was large projects and project establishment in their 3 of their studios. So I've worked on everything from the very small to the medium size to the very large projects, as you can see there. Right through from a drafting background through to BIM manager on some medium and large Revit jobs as well. Alright, so the first of the tools that you may not be making use of is Showcase. So this is a tool that was developed for the product and manufacturing industry to showcase their products. So tools like Inventor don't have the built-in rendering capability that we're used to in Max and Revit, so their answer to show off their products was Showcase. So that's been adapted to suit the architecture industry. And let me just back to Revit here. So that the easiest way to get a 3D model into Showcase is if we have a Revit model, we can use the suite workflows. So I've got a bit of here's one I prepared earlier, but I'll show you how easy it is to get something, a little 3D model of an example house here from Revit. We can click the application button, go through to suite workflows. And so that's really a one-click to go from Revit here through to either 3ds Max or Showcase. So that's what you get as part of the suites there. So there's a few different settings that you can set up to, these are the presets for different things. We're going to click that, we're going to send it to Showcase for an interactive walkthrough. So I'm going to just leave sort of the default settings there and let it go. I'm going to put my little environment down at below the floor level. And so that one click opens up Showcase in the background and transports the Revit model over into Showcase with all of its materials. As you can see there, my computer's complaining a little, but that's now opening Showcase for me. Here we go. So Showcase is a tool that works with more of a real-time rendered environment. It's using the graphics card for rendering rather than the computer CPU. So you're getting a much faster render time, and we can do some real-time exploration of the model at a higher quality level than what's available in Revit. So as you may know, once a Revit model does start to get large, it's very can be quite cumbersome to orbit around that Revit model. So this is going to solve some of those problems. So as you can see, it's brought my house through. In typical live demo fashion, the background has disappeared on me. I'm going to just try and put that back in. So usually I would be seeing this with a background of the grass field there, but it seems to be playing up. That's a new one. Let's put it over to white, back to grass field. I would imagine that's something to do with the webinar recording. That's just great. So this usually looks quite nice with a dome background simulating the environment. And to be honest, I'm not sure that there's much I can do about fixing that. So as you can see in the reflection of the window there, that background should be displaying everywhere, but again, like I said, I haven't actually tested this whilst recording a webinar, so I'd imagine that's what we're experiencing there. So this was my sort of one click. It's brought it through with all of the materials here. I'm just going to put that back to white. You can sort of see what we're looking at. With the materials through from Revit and any custom materials. Now I'm going to just quickly open up a little bit of one I prepared earlier, which is the same project that's been brought through from Revit with the Suite workflow, and I've just done a few modifications and a few things inside of Showcase. So a couple of the things that we can use to present a 3D model inside of Showcase are options. So options work by, there's three different types. There are material options. If I come up here to the options tab. Sorry, what do I have to do? Alternatives, sorry. So I've got here the alternatives. So the first is a positional alternative. So my positional alternative in this case is the position of the section line cutting through the building. So alternative 1 is to have that section line up the top. Alternative 2 to have it halfway through the top floor there. And alternative 3 is to have it cutting through the ground floor. So I can manually move that around at any time. Do a bit of a grand designs thing going on. The house comes up, but I can preset the positions of that section marker here over in the alternatives. The other types are visibility alternatives, where things can be visible and non-visible, and lastly a material alternative. So a material alternative, I'll just show you quickly how easy it is to add an alternative. So it would be for a different color scheme on this house. So I may add an alternative. I would select an object. If I select all objects with that same material, I can be looking at the black stucco finish there. I can add that selection to an alternative. Then I can easily change that material. So I'll come up into materials. It's got a bunch of built-in materials here. I'm going to go to the Autodesk ones. Get a different finish. So we're going to go with something else, brown color there, and I'm going to say add next alternative. So just like that, I've got an alternative that I can be presenting to either a client or what have you, where alternative 1 is the black finish, alternative 2 is the brown, and I can be going around and changing materials and positions and things like that on a number of objects, but that's just the basic aspect there. So those alternatives can be displayed in what's called a storyboard. So what you would generally do is go around and take a number of camera shots. So I've just moved the camera into different positions and saved those as shots. So shot 1 being the beginning, click shot 2, I've set it to transition from shot 1 to shot 2. Sort of like SketchUp in the way that it is presented there. So those shots can be added to a storyboard. So if I come up here to storyboard, this is a number of shots that have had the alternatives set on them. So we could have it zooming to the camera and changing the material to whatever it is. So if I hit play, it's going to show the certain shot for a number of seconds and then move to the next. and then the last two shots simply have the alternative of the section marker added to them. So camera shot with the material alternative and the section box in there. Stop that. So this is all very nice to show if you have the client in the office sitting in front of you and you're sitting on your computer that has Showcase installed. But another great thing about the tool is that it can be exported out of Showcase in a number of formats. So I can save this storyboard set as an AVI, so I can export out as a movie file there. So you see that's come in at about 330 megabytes there, and then send this off to the client, and they don't have to have Showcase installed. They don't have to have any special software. They can just sit there and watch the movie. The other format that you can export out of Showcase is an HTML file there. So what that creates is a website that you could email to the client, and it gives them the option to click on each slide there. So as they click, it transitions from one slide to the other, so there's a little bit more of an aspect of control there. If I just click straight through from into my kitchen area, sort of see. All right, very nice. Upstairs. And we chop the roof off. So a good little example there of being able to export out of Showcase and give to the clients who aren't running the software. All right, so that was all on Showcase. If you've got any questions, feel free to put them in the question box, and I'll make sure I get to those at the end. So as I said, Showcase available in all of those, so standard, premium, and ultimate suites there. And so the next tool that I'm going to look at that you may not be using as part of the suite is the Sketchbook Designer. So this is available right through from standard, premium, and ultimate suites. But unfortunately, with the 2015 suites that have just been released, this product was not included. So I'm not 100% sure what the go is, whether they're going to add that. There is Sketchbook Pro, which is a separate product, which is still available. But Sketchbook Designer was included up to the 2014 Building Design Suite. So if you're using the 2014 suite there or before, you'll have that available at the moment. So what that can be used, I've got my little example here if I show it in AutoCAD. So I'm going to show that working with AutoCAD. It could be used as a sketch tool, sort of an upgrade for Microsoft Paint on par maybe with Photoshop. But its real power comes in its integration with AutoCAD. So if we're using AutoCAD at the moment for design, it can be a little frustrating sometimes not having the flexibility for free-form shapes and whatnot. Let's put this over here. So with the Building Design Suite, Sketchbook Designer comes as a tab inside of AutoCAD. You can access all of the tools here. So I'm going to ever so crudely model up the beginning of my project, which looks a little something like this. This is an elevation of my office tower, of course. And so the way that we need to get started if we wanted to add a freeform canopy on here is the example I'm going to use. So it would be possible to go ahead and try and draw a spline to the shape. But Sketchbook Designer is really the tool to go out to a more of a sketchy format where we can start drawing here. So it works with canvases. So when we look at the Sketchbook Designer tool, we can see we have to create a new canvas, and that is setting up the size of the paper, the size of the piece of paper that's going to open up inside of Sketchbook Designer. It's going to, oh, thank you, I haven't activated. Try that. So it's going to come up with the canvas size and let me know what size I'm looking at here. So pixels per inch and whatnot. The width, let's give it a better size that covers my design here. Whoops. That wasn't very good. So when we create that canvas, you have the option whether the vector lines from AutoCAD come through into the canvas or not. So I'm going to say yes, so I'm going to say create vector on, which is going to bring these DWG lines through from AutoCAD into Sketchbook Designer. and I'm just going to let those preserve on the layers that they were on if you had a full elevation with layers set up. And then I'm going to hit apply to create the canvas initially. So that has turned that into a canvas. Now I can, I have a few tools within AutoCAD, but the bit that I'm going to demonstrate here is to actually export out to Sketchbook Designer. So when I click that button, it's going to minimize AutoCAD, and it's AutoCAD in the background. Looks like it's crashed. It's not responding. It's got this spinning hoop of death, but it is still there. This is normal. It's just that you have frozen out the AutoCAD session to work in Sketchbook Designer instead. The moment we bring this back into AutoCAD, it does become active. You have to trust me. So I can then, so here I am in Sketchbook Designer. So this is more of a freeform sketching tool. So I'm here working with a mouse, which isn't very nice, but if we had this a touch interface or a pen setup, we would be maybe looking at something a bit smoother. But so in Sketchbook Designer, I can go ahead and start creating my sketching over the top. I will begin by creating a new layer. So we've got a couple of main options here. We've got a paint layer and a vector layer. So a vector layer is going to be for vectorized lines. So I'm going to bring these lines back into AutoCAD, and I'm going to want to work with those in AutoCAD. A paint layer creates a raster layer, so that doesn't have the vector information included in the lines. And so I'm going to begin by sketching. I can do a curve through point, but I'm just going to start by sketching in my beautiful canopy there. And with Sketchbook Designer, my line looks a bit rough as I've done it with the mouse here. It's not exactly smooth. After drawing that line, I can come through to the little circle here around the tool and actually adjust the smoothness of that. So if I bring it right out to the outside, it's almost straight. If I bring it right down to how it was, it's almost exactly what I drew. I want somewhere in the middle to create a nice smooth curve there, so I'm going to have that sitting somewhere around there. So a few common tools in there. I can select these lines and copy, move them around and things like that. All pretty standard tools there. I'll go ahead and draw a few extra lines on here to finish off my canopy. There they were. And there's a handy little tool here to select the outside edges only of my curve. So all the bits I don't want, the little end pieces there, I can delete those in one go. Yep, that's going to be fine for my canopy. So I can then, if I wanted to, create a paint layer also. So hold down left click, I can create a paint layer and embellish this with some trees or what have you, to show you the idea of bringing in something in a paint layer and something in a vector layer. And the last thing I can do is with my objects, my AutoCAD objects here, I can actually convert so layer 0 was what that came through from AutoCAD. I can convert that to a vector layer, and then I can work with those objects. These are my DWG lines. I can then change the style of those lines. So if I wanted something sketchy, well, that's an extreme example. Let's say more sketchy line on there, or something like a painted line, and I can change the brush radius and whatnot down. Somewhere around there. So I can change the line styles here that are going to affect the objects back in my AutoCAD session. Okay, so we've got our vector layer, we've got a couple of paint layers, and we've got the other layer there. So now I could, to bring this information to a DWG format, I can use the export option here and say a DWG. That's going to create an AutoCAD DWG with this information saved into layout space. So that can be handy if that's the workflow that you're going through. But for this particular one, I'm going to just hit the button out to the right here, return to AutoCAD. And we do need to click save. If you click discard, it's not going to save any of your changes. I click save here. We see now that we have this information back inside of AutoCAD. That's not real clear there, if I just change my background, and then select canvas. Well, that's a good tip. So when you're working with these canvases, you can't perform any other commands until you've unselected the canvas. So here we go, unselect. That's more like it. So I wanted to change my background color there. You can see what I'm dealing with. Okay, so I've modified that layer there. So in the Sketchbook Designer area, I can select the canvas. I only have one in my file at this stage. I can see the layers that we had there from Sketchbook Designer. So I can do things like hide the original DWG layer there, the one that's coming from Sketchbook Designer. You can see the vector layer there and the paint layer also. So this is, at the moment, suitable for printing. If I needed to print this exactly with my raster objects and my line styles, I could just jump into Layout Space and do a print of this information. If I need to work with it further, if I've got this curve exactly right and I want that to be traced over, we can actually convert that information into DWG lines. So if I select the canvas again on my vector layer, I'll right-click and I can say replicate vector into an active AutoCAD layer. So at the moment I've just got layer 0 active, so I click that, I get those objects inside of AutoCAD. So if I just go ahead and hide this canvas, I can see now that my DWG actually contains the lines that I've created inside of Sketchbook. So that can be quite handy. So I've still got control over those. It's created them into splines by point, and of course we have the options there. So if we've got an exact shape that needs to be done by hand, we can use Sketchbook Designer to do that. Still got my canvas selected, of course. We need to unselect that before we do anything, as I said, and we can get those tidied up. So yeah, so we've created something, a freeform curve in Sketchbook Designer, brought it back through and rasterized that, vectorized, changed it into, sorry, a layer inside of AutoCAD. Alright, so the next of the little tools that we're going to go through is AutoCAD Raster Design. So this is something that's included again in all suites, so Standard, Premium and Ultimate, and again appears as a toolbar inside of AutoCAD. So I'm going to whip up my 14, which has that one installed there. So AutoCAD Raster Design is a software to convert raster to vectors. So raster images are JPEG formatted images and whatnot, where it's a number of pixels side by side. It doesn't contain the information about the line that created those pixels, whereas a vector image contains the start and end point of a line, and it's more of a smart line. So the lines that we're dealing with in AutoCAD are vector lines. So this tool can be used, if you look at the website or Google it, there's a few videos showing it. So there it is inside of AutoCAD, the raster tools. So it can be used to clean up scanned drawings. So we can bring in a scan of an existing file, and we can do things like the despeckle command. So that's going to clean up all of the little speckly bits that scanners sometimes pick up. And we can hide areas and whatnot of it. And the other option that we have before I jump into the software is actually the convert option, where we can convert raster lines, so just outlines of a scanned buildings in this case. We can convert them into DWG lines. So here those buildings have been converted into the green line, but also text. According to the marketing material, we can convert a piece of text into a real live AutoCAD font for further editing. I did have a few troubles with this tool. I tried to just use some standard JPEG images that I downloaded and created and whatnot, and it did have a bit of trouble working with those images. So just as a bit of a heads up, if you do bring an image in, the raster to vector conversion tools work with what's called a bitonal image. So bitonal, I guess it has two tones. So the first thing you need to do if you bring in any old JPEG is actually use this process image and click the change color depth and select the image and use the bitonal option to convert that image from a full color image to a bitonal image. Yeah, I did have a bit of trouble with that. It wasn't overly smooth. Again, my images that I was using were not scanned file, they were just downloaded JPEGs there, so that was probably why. I do have one of the example TIFF files from that comes with the program, so I'll just show you that in action now. And so when we use the insert tool, it gives us a number of options. I'm not too worried about the size at this stage. Zoom all. There we see our raster image brought in the background. So as I mentioned, a few of the tools are the cleanup tool, so the despeckle to get rid of those little dots and bits and pieces that have come into our scan. So if I use that first up, I can say cleanup and despeckle. So it's going to ask me for which image. So I'm going to say all of that is the area to be despeckled, and then it's going to say pick a speckle to set size. So I could type in the size of the speckle that I want to get rid of. I'm going to click that guy to and hit enter, and that has gotten rid of. Well, it's tried its best to get rid of the speckly bits out of the scan based on the size of the speckle that I clicked there. So it does an okay job. A few other little tools. So there's a number of tools up here. So masking regions, so we can remove a section of the JPEG scan. So I can say a rectangular area to remove, and remove this little guy here. So take that out of the JPEG scan there. So that's kind of nice. The great bits are, I guess, the converting from raster to DWG lines. So we can do that with a follower. I'm going to do it here with raster objects. I'm going to say create primitive, and it's just on smart pick there. So if we've got options, lines, arcs, circles. I'm going to use the smart one, so it should pick up. If I click a line, it's going to convert it into an AutoCAD line. So fingers crossed. I'm going to click this line. Oh, there we go. Didn't do too badly. It's created an AutoCAD line underneath that. So I'm not sure if you can really see that, but I do have endpoints on that line. It's colored the raster information in the background that it used for the pick of the line. If I move that out, you can see that it's the line is now associated to that raster info. And then if I repeat the command, I can go around and continue to turn my raster image into a vectorized format. So I've got actual DWG lines there in the background. So that's I'm not sure what it's going to do for this shape. Okay, it's used an arc on there. Okay, so it's trying. So yeah, with the objects there. The solids, no, okay, it hasn't lined those up very nicely at all. Maybe not so good on circles. So it's with the lines, it does a pretty okay job. We could then work with those lines and tidy them up maybe a little and change the layer and the thickness and whatnot. The text tool is not quite so nice. I think on the example used in the demo is a file that's been done on the computer, printed, scanned, and then come out. But so with font that's come from a computer, it maybe does a pretty okay job. But this file I've got in there in the background has handwritten text, so it has a bit of trouble recognizing what the text should say. So I can do that with the text tool there. No, hang on, if I do it with this text recognition, select what the text object is, select the first point. The angle is 0, the second point. Okay, so that is the piece of text I want to convert. So it's picked up that as the image, and it's almost got it. It's put in N there instead of my H. So we can touch that up. I can type in the H manually and get rid of those extra spaces in there. Yes, okay, thank you. And then hit OK. So the style, I don't really have any styles set up, so it's just set onto whatever the default AutoCAD style is. So we can set that to remove the text off the raster and then create the DWG text instead. So if you had your styles set up with the same size and whatnot, conceivably it could be as easy as just going around each of these pieces of text and putting a box and clicking the OK button. And it hasn't done a very nice job of that one at all. So I'm going to go for it anyway. Yes, the ICU. So that is the AutoCAD Raster Design tool there. Yeah, really handy for converting existing bits and pieces, scans and whatnot into a usable format inside of AutoCAD. Okay, so the next little tool that you may not be using is called a recap. So Autodesk Recap is a reasonably new tool. It stands for Reality Capture. It comes in all of the suites, so standard, premium, and ultimate. And it's going to So what Recap is a software that can be used to work with point clouds. So point clouds are a 3D laser scanned file, and it works by setting up the scanner in the middle of the room. The scanner will go ahead and detect the distance of each direction, take millions and millions of points in space, and give you their XYZ location, and also the color now also. So Recap can be used to view these point cloud files. So I've just double clicked on a point cloud file here. If I use the navigation, we can look around. It's pretty familiar from AutoCAD. See, it might be starting to go a little fuzzy, and as I stop orbiting there, it's going to resolve the image somewhat. I can use the fly tool to go around and navigate this space. So as I mentioned, a point cloud is a number of dots. So as I get closer to objects, they start to look like they're fading away. So those are the dots. So when you're zoomed out, you're quite far from an object. The dots appear to be a solid wall, but as we get closer and closer, you can see each of the individual dots as I zoom past those objects. So really great. Point clouds are really great for working within an existing space, so the context of the existing building, or in this case the workshop there. And the Recap software here can be used to convert what's called the raw point cloud data. So all of the different laser scanners have different formats that they export this point cloud data into. The Recap Studio software here can be used to aggregate all of those different models in different formats, and we can convert them into what's called an RCS format, which is what Revit can take. So we can import these point clouds into Revit by, first of all, converting them through this Recap software. So it imports from all of the different, many different point cloud formats. We can also use this software to edit the point cloud. So I can select a number of points here, so all of the points that I can see there, and edit this point cloud file. So I can delete those points so that they are all gone. So that's just a bit of a random deletion from my current selection. So as you can see, it's gotten rid of the lower half of my drill and whatnot. I can go ahead and get those point clouds and put them on different layers. So I can create what's called a region here in Recap. So I can say that I have a single point cloud with two different regions, one showing the existing area and one discarding that existing area. So that's a good one. And then also it has the basic measuring tools inside of Recap. So I've got this point cloud file. I can measure from the face. It's going to do its best to pick up the faces of all of the objects and whatnot. Do its best there to measure that doorway. So it can be used to sort of interrogate that point cloud model. So if you haven't received a point cloud model before, they're becoming more common. Have a look at the next company you use to do the existing conditions survey, and if they're able to provide that point cloud, that can be a really good base because obviously no information is left out here. We can see everything in the point cloud. So the last two little bits that I wanted to just talk about, I guess, were that are in the Building Design Suite that you may not be using, are 3ds Max and Navisworks. So these are both in just the Premium and Ultimate suites. So 3D Studio Max, again, they make it as easy as they can now to get through from Revit into 3D Max, they've got the Suite workflow button there, so it doesn't get much easier to transfer your Revit model over into 3D Max. And one of the great new tools that they've brought on board, excuse me, I'm just going to close that showcase down there in the background. One of the new things that they've done is a shared material library. So that's shared between Revit and 3D Max, and so that is when you use the Autodesk materials inside of Revit. So when we use inside of Revit, we have an option for a number of different materials. In the lower half of those material options are the Autodesk materials, and those that's one. There you go. So if I say manage, I come to the materials editor. In the lower area of the materials editor, so here I have the Autodesk materials, this option here. These are shared materials between 3D Max and Revit. So when I transfer this model over into 3D Max, it comes through with those materials. So if I say transfer to 3D Max to do an exterior rendering, again I've got the one-click workflow from Revit. So yeah, into a brand new Max scene. It does take a little while to get transferred over, but really great for getting this model through into 3D Max. So it does come through with the information from the Revit file. So it comes through with the current camera view. So this particular view that I'm looking at, the model, is the view that's transferred. So if I have objects hidden in this view, they will not be transferred. And if I have a design option set in this view, that's what will be transferred over into 3D Max. And so it's come up here in 3D Max. It's also brought through the sun settings, solar settings, positional settings from my Revit model. So I had that set up at whatever I had, and so it's brought that info through from Revit over into 3D Max. So that's great that it's preset that for me. And as I mentioned, it does bring the materials through. If I put this view on a scale to show materials, you can see that any Autodesk materials that I have used in the model will have been brought through into 3D Max. And I've got a few things open here, so that's starting to slow down a little. Come here. Oh, there she goes. There's my tile pattern anyway. So that's yeah, I own my timber pattern as well. So Autodesk materials, one-click workflow through. I maybe set my view, or I can set up that that same view, whatever it was called. Ooh, no, it didn't work. Set a new view then, and just hit the render button here in Max, and you can get a reasonably good output straight from Revit there. And the last of the tools that you may not be using was Navisworks there. So again, in the Premium and Ultimate Suite, Navisworks is a really powerful tool. So in the Premium Suite, we get Navisworks Simulate. In the Ultimate Suite, we get Navisworks Manage. So the difference between the two, the main difference is that the Navisworks Simulate within the Premium Suite doesn't come with the clash detective feature. So that's for the full clash detection. But even Navisworks Simulate can be used to bring models together. So we can use that to aggregate models from various platforms. If we've got IFC files from structural people, if we've got files from anyone using other software such as AutoCAD, we can bring all of those models together in a really lightweight format inside of Navisworks. So that converts that 3D geometry to a really lightweight format, which makes it easy to explore. So the other thing with if you got Navisworks sitting there, if you're not using it, it can be used to as a communication tool during the design process, but also once you get to site. So there's a number of there's the Navisworks Freedom Viewer, which is available. So you're able to combine a number of 3D models together into one 3D model, and then package that up and send it off to various stakeholders of the project. They're able to download the free viewer and navigate around that file. There are also mobile viewers available too. And yeah, if you really get into it, get into Navisworks. There are training courses available, of course, but it does more advanced functions such as 4D simulation, so adding the element of time and being able to view the project at a certain status along its construction. And as I mentioned, the clash detection for different 3D models. And so I am almost out of time here. Got maybe one more minute. So yeah, I better get onto the questions. So if there's any other questions that anyone has on any of those tools, I'll try to get through those now and answer them. Oh, sorry, so someone popped in there, will this presentation be architectural based or include building services? I'm sorry, it will be mainly architectural based, as I come from that background, but yeah, I guess any of those vector sort of tools would be applicable. And especially if you've got Premium Suite there, Navisworks and whatnot for services guys, for coordination with architects is a great tool there. All right, so 45 minutes. That was my timer. If there's no other questions, thank you very much, everybody, for attending. Do I see any other questions in here? Nothing in the chat. Very good. Thank you.